Egypt has always been a land of mystery and ancient wonders, but some recent discoveries have taken things to a whole new level. Here are 20 of the strangest things recently found in Egypt. Number 20. Ancient Embalming Workshop. If you've ever learned about ancient Egypt at school, one of the first things that you'll have encountered is that of the weird and distinctly graphic process of mummification, of which the ancient Egyptians were so very fond. Many a school child has the entire technique, especially with the bit with the brains, tattooed into their memories for all of time. So this is an archaeological site that can probably add some extra stuff to the wonderful imaginings of your own brain, EW. This 2,500-year-old mummification workshop was discovered in Saqqara, near the ancient necropolis of the pyramids south of Cairo. In the workshop, they uncovered a collection of embalming gear along with pottery vessels, bowls, and measuring cups. These findings are giving historians an opportunity to find out more about the oils that were used in the mummification process. They were especially interested to learn about the chemical composition of the materials used, as this is one of the best preserved sites that has been discovered where this actually took place. Now, alongside the workshop, there were also additional burial chambers which contain mummies that have remained untouched, and therefore unloved, since they were laid to rest. Again, more potential secrets are yet to be revealed. Number 19. For 1,000-year-old tomb and artifacts. In Sakara, a joint expedition between Egypt and Japan has uncovered some new old junk at the ancient necropolis of Sakara. This is actually something that happens well all the time. They find tombs and ancient stuff on a fairly regular basis. This particular discovery was a rock-cut tomb and a whole enormous heap of artifacts from many eras. Saqqara necropolis is an ancient burial ground in Egypt, which is why so many tombs and artifacts happen to be found in this specific area. It's located near the city of Cairo and is famous for its many pyramids and tombs. The Step Pyramid of Djoser is the most well-known of these, and it was built over 4,600 years ago. Considered to be the oldest stone structure of its size in the world, it marks the beginning of the pyramid construction age of Egypt. Saqqara was a burial site for the ancient Egyptian capital of Memphis and was used for burials all over for several millennia, from the early dynastic period to the Greco-Roman period. The necropolis included a wide variety of tombs and burial structures, such as mastabas, these are flat-roof tombs, pyramids, and underground galleries. The artifacts found on this occasion were especially interesting because they included 2 terracotta statues of the goddess Isis, one of the child deity Harpocrates, and a whole selection of amulet pottery objects and various things with hieroglyphic inscriptions. Number 18. Teenage mummy with ornate treasures. Back in 2020, a new ancient tomb discovery was made. This was the burial place of a teenage girl who's thought to have been about 15 or 16 years old when she died about 3,600 years ago. The mummy was discovered in a coffin that was made from the trunk of a sycamore tree and then was painted. But the thing that seems to have been most interesting to the archaeologists is that she had been buried with a huge cache of treasures. She was wearing a lot of jewelry, which included earrings, a couple of rings, and necklaces that were made from ceramic pieces and semi-precious stones. There was also a scarab amulet, a kind of funerary doll, 2 mummified cats, and a pair of red leather sandals. The mummy was in poor state, but frankly, after 3,600 years, any of us would be. The artifacts were remarkably well preserved and gave the archaeologists a lot to be excited about. Number 17. Roman-era mummy found in the Oasis. Back in 2010, an archaeological dig in an oasis found its first Roman-era mummy. Apparently, this mummy is a carved plaster sarcophagus from a cemetery dating back to the Greco-Roman period. The mummy itself is that of a woman who was dressed in a long tunic with a headscarf, and she was also wearing a bracelet, a brightly colored necklace, and a pair of shoes. Some colored stones have been placed in the eyes, which are to indicate that she is awake. Creepy, much? Also discovered in the tomb were coins, which archaeologists have used to date the mummy and other contents of the burial ground. There were also 13 additional graves in that same area, but none of them were as complete or offered as much to the archaeological team in terms of new information. This tomb was significant because it's the first of its type from that era to have been found in this precise spot, and it gives a great deal of insight into things that were previously unknown. It was probably not enough to shock the whole world, though, not if we're being honest about it, because this was no King Tut of glittering gold after all. Number 16. Ancient large-scale brewery in Egypt. So it turns out that the ancient Egyptians may have been big boozers. Who knew? Located in Abydos, to the east of the Temple of King Narmer, the site of a 5,000-year-old brewery has been unearthed by archaeologists. This place is believed to be the oldest high-production brewery in the whole entire world, and at the ripe old age of 5,000, that does seem rather likely now, doesn't it? So why were there ancient Egyptians making so much beer, and how exactly were they doing it? Well, using magnetic survey equipment, A team of archaeologists are trying to answer these and many other questions. What they've discovered is that this brewery was making beer on an enormous scale. Given the structures and size of the pottery vessels used in the process that have been found on the site, they've estimated that the brewery could produce more than 20,000 liters of beer every batch. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of every person in a 40,000-seat sports stadium having a pint of beer, every single one. Now it's time for today's topic. In a groundbreaking expedition, scientists recently deployed a drone into a mysterious underground hole discovered beneath ancient ruins in Egypt. The hole, hidden for centuries, was uncovered during routine excavations near an undisclosed site. What the drone captured deep below the surface has left archaeologists and historians stunned. The footage reveals massive underground structures, intricately designed and far more advanced than anything previously associated with ancient Egypt. The chambers, carved with precision, stretch endlessly into the darkness, with walls adorned with symbols and carvings that have never been seen before. Some speculate these structures could predate the Egyptian civilization itself, hinting at a lost, advanced society. This is something no one was supposed to see, one archaeologist reportedly said. The scale and complexity of these structures challenge everything we know about ancient engineering. The discovery has sparked intense debate. While some believe the structures could be ceremonial or burial chambers, others suggest they might have served a more mysterious purpose. Skeptics argue the footage could be misinterpreted or exaggerated, but the sheer magnitude of the find is undeniable. For now, the site remains under strict security as experts work to uncover its secrets. Could this be evidence of a forgotten chapter in human history? The mystery deepens with every passing day. Number 15. Ancient temple ruins. Even the most excitable of ancient Egyptian enthusiasts might find a tiny bit tricky to get their panties all in a bunch about this one. But there you go, we are telling you about it anyway. Lucky old you. This is the recent and yawn-worthy discovery of the remains of a colonnade hall beneath a temple site in Egypt. Apparently, it does signify a few interesting things about the history of architecture, but otherwise it's just a few columns in a pit next to an ancient temple. And while the site of the Temple of Bubastis is in and of itself allegedly an important site in the history of the region, there's no cool, exciting news or particularly fascinating things that have been revealed. Shall we just move on swiftly then to something more silly? Number 14. Tomb of a goldsmith filled with artifacts. The discovery of the tomb of a guy named Amenemhat had all the Egyptologists dead excited back in 2017. This guy, when he had lived about 3,500 years previous, had been a goldsmith and had dedicated his life's work to the ancient Egyptian sun god, Ammonius Ra. The tomb was unearthed after 5 painstaking months of excavation in the desert of Luxor, and it was amongst these tombs of noblemen and rulers in an area that was adjacent to the famous Valley of the Kings. The thing is that dried-up old corpses and bits of old pots are dragged from the earth every day of the year in this part of the world, and it seems that it might be a bit of a push to make every single one of them into a news story at this point. The owner was a goldsmith who lived during the 15th century BC, the middle of the 18th dynasty. But the Egyptian tourism ministry is hellbent on reviving the country's tourist sector. There have been various off-putting things for tourism since the change in politics in the region in 2011, and so the ministry is fairly enthusiastic whenever anything at all is discovered. This is a modest find but at least marginally interesting. The burial chamber contained pottery, funeral masks, and figurines, and the usual bits and bobs deemed essential for the ancient Egyptian journey into the afterlife. Number 13. 110 ancient tombs in the Nile Delta. As we have been finding out, when you dig a hole almost anywhere in Egypt, you are likely to unearth the mortal remains of an ancient or some sort of artifact or relic of the long-ago past. This is the site of Qam el-Kilgan. It's located 93 miles to the northeast of Cairo. The team of archaeologists here have unearthed 110 tombs, the oldest of which are believed to date all the way back to the pre-dynastic period. That was between 6,000 and 3,150 BC. These very old tombs are oval-shaped, and the people inside have been laid on their left sides, facing towards the west. Alongside the bodies in the tombs, there have been dozens of different artifacts that have been discovered, and these include the usual pottery vessels as well as some that have been inscribed with patterns and imagery. There are also other pieces of funerary equipment and items that were used in rituals during the ancient Egyptian times. It's a strange thing to really discover what is clearly a large and ancient burial site that was used for so many thousands of years and continues to be dug up. When these people were laid to rest, they were probably expecting to be left in peace, but such seems to be the nature of historical research. How much more could we possibly be learning by digging up every dead body ever in Egypt, though? Number 12. 40 mummies in ancient chambers. Now, nobody should really be under the impression that there is anything strange about finding any kind of mummified remains in Egypt. As a nation, The Egyptians of ancient times were really into desiccating their dead and then burying them all over the desert landscapes of Egypt. So here we are in Minya, a province to the south of Cairo, where archaeologists have discovered a cache of burial chambers stuffed full of at least 40 mummies. They reckon that these tombs belong to a family that likely lived during the Ptolemaic or early Roman Byzantine period. The tombs were cut directly into the rock and contain the mummies of people of all sorts of ages, from children up to much older people. Number 11. Mysterious Black Tomb of Alexandria. Back in 2018, archaeologists in Egypt would find a super creepy and extremely mysterious black granite sarcophagus. It was a bit different from all the usual tomb stuff that they were always finding out there, and it really did a number on those that set the task upon opening it. First of all, there was the standard fear of the curse. This pretty much goes without saying whenever a tomb is opened. You know, the curse of the mummy's tomb, it's still a legitimate fear, and things were way creepier in ancient Egypt. And also, opening a tomb is fraught with biohazards and grossness, so you probably get it, I'm sure. Anyways, once they got to cracking this big black coffin open, these lucky archaeologists would be met with the most horrendous stench in the world. I mean, it was a tomb after all, so it shouldn't really be the most enormous surprise. Before they opened it, they had rather hoped for the long-lost tomb of Alexander the Great, but what they actually found was a lot less exciting. It was 3 skeletons and a puddle of brown sewage water. Excuse me while I just vomit slightly. Although they don't believe that they released a curse as such, it is quite possible that they could have released some toxic fumes. Nice. Number 10. Sarcophagi unearthed in Sakara. Being an absolutely enormous necropolis, that is, a city of the dead, Sakara is a veritable treasure trove of mummies and general artifacts from the earliest years of ancient Egypt. Since these were people who liked to bury their dead with a bunch of extra stuff to help them on their way into the afterlife, it gives archaeologists plenty of goodies to poke about and that offer lots of valuable insights into that way of life and death in this ancient civilization. This particular discovery that we're looking at is that of 5 tombs from around about 2700 BC, and archaeologists believe that these belong to senior officials from Egypt's Old Kingdom and First Intermediate period. All of these tombs were painted in enormous detail, and the paintings had been extremely well preserved for all of the thousands of years since they were created. Inside, they also found wooden and stone coffins, statues, and pieces of pottery, all of that usual mummy stuff. Number 9. The Lost Golden City. The remains of an ancient city that's lost for almost 3,000 years is nothing to be sniffed at, and this city was golden, so it must have been a good one. Everyone's always really quick to call any kind of finding in Egypt the biggest discovery since Tutankhamun's tomb. Found a pair of old pharaoh pants. Well, that's the biggest discovery since Tutankhamun. Dug up a mummy with a funny hat, the biggest discovery since old King Tut. I mean, you know the drill. And on this occasion, those bragging about this one, well, maybe they had a point. In September of 2020, excavations began at the site between the temples of Amenhotep III and Ramses III near Luxor, about 300 miles south of Cairo. Took a few weeks, but the archaeology team began to uncover brick buildings that seemed to go in every direction. What they were finding turned out to be the largest ancient city ever uncovered in Egypt. It had been in existence throughout the era of Amenhotep III and Tutankhamun, and was eventually lost under the sands of the desert. But this city represents the golden age of the pharaohs, and there have been numerous important findings within the site, from jewelry to colorful pottery items, mud bricks with the seal of Amenhotep III pressed into them, and the scarab beetle amulets. After 7 months of excavation, the site included several different neighborhoods and even a bakery with all of its pots and ovens still in place. As the excavation continues, the city continues to give up secrets and show everyone just how life may have been over 2,000 years ago. Number 8. Archaeologists in Egypt discover a tunnel. Cleopatra may be the most famous of ancient Egyptian queens, but the whereabouts of her tomb continues to elude the archaeological world. However, new information about a possible location has come to light. Archaeologists have discovered a tunnel carved into the rock beneath an ancient Egyptian temple that they've suggested could lead to the tomb of Cleopatra herself. The tunnel is 4,800 feet long and runs beneath the Tapestry Magna Temple in the region of Alexandria. Some experts have floated the idea that this could actually be the tomb of Cleopatra and her lover, Mark Antony. The tunnel itself has been described by those who have seen it as a miracle. This structure is apparently rather significant in engineering terms, although to call it a miracle may be rather overinflating it somewhat. It's approximately 6 feet high and bears a resemblance to another ancient tunnel on the Greek island of Samos. The one in Alexandria has thus far given up few secrets, but some pottery has been unearthed, and some coins of Cleopatra and of the earlier ruler Alexander the Great, as well as various statues. Number 7. 3,200-year-old cheese discovered in tomb. Now, this is a rather unappetizing notion, but here we are, and this is what we're doing today, I suppose. This is apparently some of the oldest cheese that's ever been discovered, in a tomb belonging to a pharaoh. Archaeologists found some broken jars that contained a strange, solidified white mass. It sounds disgusting, I know, but they thought that it may have indeed been food. The ancient Egyptians liked to ensure that their dearly departed relatives were fully equipped for the afterlife with everything that they may need, and this basically meant everything they used in life. So they pondered the contents, but it wasn't until years later that a new study finally identified the revolting blob as cheese. According to new information, the cheese was 3,200 years old, just a little more ripe than your average brie. Up until its discovery, nobody had previously been aware that the ancient Egyptians had produced cheese, but the evidence showed that it was made mostly from goats and sheep's milk. The scientists did add that they couldn't imagine what the flavor would have been, and mercifully, it seems that nobody tried it on a cracker. Number 6. Tomb of the Pyramid Builders. Back in 2010, some new tombs were discovered in Giza, Egypt, that gave many Egyptologists reason to believe that the pyramids may not have been built by slaves. A chief archaeologist made a statement to the effect that the newly uncovered tombs were those of the workers that were responsible for building the pyramids. He reckoned that if they were slaves and therefore without status, they would not have been permitted to have been buried beside the king's tomb. It stands to reason, but is this evidence really going to undo everything that we've always understood about the pyramids? Well, probably not. Although the first of these workers' tombs were actually discovered in 1990 when a horse literally tripped over it, this theory had taken 20 years to be developed. During that time, we had continued to watch all the movies depicting slaves building the pyramids, all the textbooks carried on being filled with images and descriptions of this as a fact, and let's be honest, almost all the stuff that we think that we understand from ancient times is based on the interpretation of different experts with the information available at the time. It'll take years of continuing research and additional evidence to change the narrative around the building of the pyramid. It won't happen because one guy says it out loud to a few news reporters, even if he does think it's the most exciting and important discovery of all time. But he would, though, wouldn't he? What do you think? Is this a shocking discovery or just some kind of locked-up brand-new theory? Number 5. Has Queen Nefertiti's mummy been discovered? Back in early fall of 2022, a leading expert in Egyptology claimed that the mummy of Queen Nefertiti had finally been found. The mystery of the whereabouts of Nefertiti's final resting place had stumped archaeologists for all of time, so this expert and his gang began the search in earnest back in 2017. They claim that they have found her and that they will reveal where, how, and why that they believed it to be the famous beauty in due time. The discovery, if proven true, could rewrite much of what we know about ancient Egyptian history, particularly the Amarna period during which Nefertiti lived. Some experts speculate that her tomb may have been hidden deliberately to protect it from grave robbers, as was common for high-ranking figures of the time. Others believe that her burial site could be connected to the tomb of Tutankhamun, given the close familial ties between the two. The use of advanced scanning technology and DNA analysis has reportedly played a key role in identifying the remains, though the findings have yet to be independently verified. If confirmed, this would be one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the century, drawing global attention to Egypt's rich history. Of course, all sounds the teeniest bit like a lot of old guff to me, but then what the heck do I know? I just work here and say a lot of words. It's also important to remember, though, that the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism is ever eager to promote all the cool stuff that's been found in the constantly probed tombs of this country, and they are forever seeking a way to revive their flagging tourist industry. And a new massive find like this would more than likely cause quite the stir in the ancient Egypt fans department. Not that I'm skeptical or anything, of course. Number 4. 30 ancient wooden coffins found in Luxor. This one's about a whole bunch more coffins that were stuffed full of exciting mummies that were unearthed in 2019. It's truly amazing just how many mummies there still are that are left to be discovered. It's almost every week that someone seems to trip over another heap of ancient dead people. This party pack extravaganza of coffins was uncovered in Luxor after years of excavations by foreign-led teams. The discovery included over 30 intricately painted wooden coffins, each containing a mummy, and they were found stacked in 2 layers within a burial shaft. The vibrant colors and hieroglyphs on the coffins were remarkably well preserved, providing valuable information about the individuals buried and their social status. Some of the coffins bore inscriptions identifying the deceased as priests or priestesses, indicating their high rank in ancient Egyptian society. The artifacts found alongside the mummies, such as amulets and pottery, also shed light on burial customs and beliefs about the afterlife. Researchers believe the coffins date back to the 22nd dynasty, around 3,000 years ago, during a period of significant cultural and religious change in Egypt. When the dig was taken over by the Egyptian chief of archaeology, then the earth began to give up her mummies, and they just keep on coming. These exceptionally well-preserved examples have given historians an insight into the way that a mummy is posed before the wrapping up process. Apparently, if a body is that of a woman, she should have been placed with her hands open, whereas if it was a male mummy, the hands were balled into fists, presumably in case he needed to have a punch-up in the afterlife. Number 3. Rare mummified lion cubs. Back in Sakara again, this time in a massive necropolis that didn't only house the mummified remains of dead humans, although there were indeed plenty of those, since this was the burial ground for the ancient city of Memphis, but also contained a lot of mummified animals, specifically cats. Lots and lots of cats. All kinds of cats, from lions to domesticated sorts. The ancient Egyptians often mummified animals, and there were some creatures which were prized as being close to the gods. Cats, in particular, were associated with the goddess Batet, who symbolized home, fertility, and protection. The discovery of so many mummified cats highlights the reverence Egyptians had for these animals, often keeping them as pets and offering them as sacrifices to the gods. Archaeologists also uncovered beautifully decorated cat statues and amulets, which were likely used in religious rituals. The mummified animals were often buried alongside humans, believed to act as spiritual companions or offerings in the afterlife. The 2 mummified lion cubs found in Saqqara were particularly significant, as lions were associated with the sun god Ra and symbolized strength and power. Their preservation was remarkable, with researchers able to study their skeletal structure and even determine their approximate age at the time of death. These findings have provided valuable insights into the role of animals in ancient Egyptian religion and daily life. As well as these dried-up old animals, they also found 2 mummified lion cubs. These were unusual, as they're amongst the very few examples that have ever been discovered still intact. Nice. Number 2. There is a secret chamber in the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza, which is also known as Khufu's Pyramid, is a symbol of the great and enduring mysterious appeal of Egypt's ancient past. This pyramid is one of the biggest and most obvious pieces of the puzzle, and yet it continues to harbor secrets, some of which are still being revealed today. It has recently been discovered that within the Great Pyramid of Giza, there lies a massive void, or a hidden room, if you will. Scientists have only just begun to develop the technologies which allow them to actually see beneath the surface of the structure. Although Khufu's pyramid was built in 2500 BC, our modern tech has only allowed us to probe so far inside of this edifice. There are now scanners in use that are able to visualize and map out the actual shape of the interior, rather than just basing the map on what people had seen or could imagine was like to be inside. So one of the things they found while scanning the pyramid with this fancy new machine was a room or chamber that seemed to have been deliberately concealed. At 100 feet long, the space seems as though it may have had a purpose, but even with all of the scanning machines in the world, we cannot yet figure out the meaning of ancient ideas. The scientists involved in the discovery are not calling the space a room as such, mostly because they have no idea what it was for, but rather, they have taken to calling the area as being a void. There are some theories, many of which the scientists are hesitant to get all too excited about. One of which is that the hidden room could be a place where the king's body was buried, but they say it was more likely to have served an engineering purpose for the architects involved in the construction of the Great Pyramid itself. But what do you think? Should they try and find a way to go in and have a closer look? Number 1. The terrifying screaming mummy. As if a regular mummified corpse face wasn't more than enough to give you a whole new range of hideous nightmares, here's one frozen in a scream, just to add a little extra spice to these already disturbing images. You are most welcome. This mummy is called Meridiman, and it was found along with one other mummy at Deir el-Bahari. There is some research to suggest that this woman died of a heart attack, and perhaps that's why her face is frozen in an eternal scream. The haunting expression has fascinated researchers and sparked debates about the circumstances of her death. Some experts believe that the scream-like appearance could also be due to the natural process of decomposition, as the jaw tends to drop when the muscles relax after death. Others have suggested that her burial may have been rushed, leaving her body in an undignified position that was later preserved through mummification. The CT scan also revealed that Meridiman suffered from severe osteoporosis, which may have contributed to her declining health. Her teeth showed significant wear, indicating a diet of coarse bread and grains, which was common in ancient Egypt. These findings provide a glimpse into the daily life and struggles of people living thousands of years ago. Despite the eerie nature of her appearance, Meridiman's mummy has become an invaluable source of information for archaeologists and medical researchers alike. The study of her remains has helped scientists better understand the health issues and medical conditions faced by ancient Egyptians. The mummy was given a CT scan, which shows that the woman had loads of fatty plaque deposits in her blood vessels. They figured that she most likely died of a massive heart attack and was probably alone when it happened. Then they conjectured that she wasn't found for several hours, and rigor mortis had set in, so she was mummified in this terrifying expression, frozen in a scream for all of eternity. Well, that's all for today's exciting road trip to the weird and wonderful world of ancient Egypt. Which of these strange discoveries will haunt your dreams, and which one makes you scratch your head in confusion? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Also, be sure to check out the other cool things appearing on the screen. I'll see you next time.